My name is Ethan, and until 6 months ago I believed I was living the American dream. I was 35, working as a mechanic in Denver for 12 years, owned my house, had a beautiful wife named Emily, and everything I thought I wanted in life. We'd been married for 8 years, together for 11, and I genuinely believed we were happy. Emily worked as a branch manager at First National Bank downtown. She was everything I wasn't: sophisticated, ambitious, well-educated, and socially confident. We met in college when I was studying automotive technology and she was pursuing her business degree. She was completely out of my league, but somehow she chose me. I never stopped feeling grateful for that. Our life had a comfortable routine. I'd leave for the shop at 7 in the morning, she'd head to the bank at 8:30. I'd come home around 6, usually dirty and tired, while she'd arrive looking polished and professional. We'd have dinner, watch TV, talk about our days. Weekends were for errands, occasional dinners out, visiting family. It wasn't exciting, but it felt stable and real. The first crack in my perfect world appeared last March, though I didn't recognize it at the time. Emily started working longer hours, staying late for special projects and client meetings. She'd always been dedicated to her career, so I didn't question it. If anything, I was proud that her superiors trusted her with important responsibilities. She also became more secretive with her phone. Emily had never been the type to constantly check her messages, but suddenly she was glued to the device. She'd take it to the bathroom, sleep with it under her pillow, and quickly flip it face down whenever I entered the room. When I jokingly asked if she was having an affair with her phone, she laughed it off and said work emails never stopped coming. In April, things escalated. Emily announced she needed to attend a weekend banking conference in Phoenix. She'd never mentioned conferences before, and when I offered to drive her to the airport, she said she'd already arranged for an Uber. She left Friday morning with a small overnight bag and returned Sunday evening, glowing with enthusiasm about the networking opportunities and professional development sessions. What bothered me wasn't the trip itself, but how different she seemed afterward. More confident, more secretive, more alive. She started paying more attention to her appearance, buying new clothes, getting her hair done more frequently. When I complimented her on looking beautiful, she'd smile and say she was just taking better care of herself. May brought more changes. Emily's phone started ringing at odd hours, early mornings, late nights, even during dinner. She'd always step outside or into another room to take these calls. When I asked about them, she'd say they were work emergencies or clients in different time zones. The banking industry was demanding, she explained, and customer service was their top priority. Then came the gym membership. Emily had never shown interest in fitness, always saying she got enough exercise walking around the bank all day. But suddenly she joined an upscale fitness center downtown and started going there straight after work. She'd come home around 8:30, showered and glowing, talking about her workout routines and the interesting people she'd met. June was when I first felt genuine suspicion creeping in. Emily announced another conference, this time in Seattle, for a full week. She seemed almost giddy with excitement about it. The night before she left, we made love for the first time in weeks, and she was more passionate than she'd been in months. I remember thinking that maybe the conferences were good for her confidence and our relationship. While she was gone, I decided to surprise her by repainting our bedroom, something she'd been asking me to do for months. I was moving furniture when I found a credit card statement that had fallen behind her dresser. It was for a card I didn't know she had, and it showed charges I didn't recognize. Expensive restaurants I'd never been to, lingerie purchases, a jewelry store, and several charges at high-end hotels in Denver. My hands shook as I read through the statements. These weren't conference expenses, they were local charges, made while Emily was supposedly at work or the gym. The jewelry store charge was for $800, made 3 days before her Seattle trip. I'd never seen any new jewelry. When Emily returned from Seattle, I almost confronted her with the statement. But something held me back. Maybe it was cowardice, maybe it was hope that there was an innocent explanation. Instead, I put the statement back where I found it and finished painting the bedroom. When she saw it, she seemed distracted, barely noticing the work I'd done. July brought the breaking point. Emily announced she was being promoted to regional manager, which would require monthly trips to various branches across Colorado and neighboring states. She was excited about the career advancement and the substantial salary increase. I should have been happy for her, but all I felt was a cold certainty that she was lying. Her first regional visit was to Colorado Springs, just 2 hours away, but she said she'd need to stay overnight to attend early morning meetings. She left Tuesday morning, kissed me goodbye, and promised to call that evening. The kiss felt different, guilty, distant, like she was already somewhere else. That afternoon, on impulse, I called the bank's main number and asked to speak with Emily about a loan application. The receptionist told me Emily had taken a personal day and wouldn't be available until Wednesday. When I pressed, asking if I could reach her at the Colorado Springs branch, the receptionist sounded confused and said the bank had no branch in Colorado Springs. I hung up feeling sick. Emily wasn't on a business trip. She was somewhere else, with someone else, living a completely different life than the one she shared with me. When she called that evening, her voice was bright and cheerful. She told me about the beautiful mountain views from her hotel room, the productive meetings with branch staff, the excellent restaurant where she'd had dinner. Every word was a lie, delivered with such casual confidence that I wondered how long she'd been deceiving me. The next few weeks passed in a haze of surveillance and discovery. I started paying attention to details I'd previously ignored. Emily's new lingerie, which she claimed was for feeling confident at work. The expensive perfume she wore only on business trip days. The way she'd started working out at home when she came back from the gym, as if she hadn't actually exercised there. I began tracking her movements without her knowledge. I installed a GPS tracker on her car, something I'd learned about from helping customers at the shop who suspected their vehicles were being stolen. The tracker showed me that Emily's business trips were actually visits to expensive hotels around Denver. Her gym sessions often ended at a luxury apartment complex in the upscale Cherry Creek area. August was when I first saw him. I'd followed Emily's car to the Cherry Creek apartment complex and waited in my truck across the street. Around 9 p.m., she emerged from the building with a man I'd never seen before. He was tall, well-dressed, probably in his early 40s, with the kind of confident bearing that spoke of money and success. They walked to his car, a silver Mercedes, holding hands and laughing like teenagers. I followed them to an expensive restaurant in downtown Denver, watching through the window as they shared intimate conversation and romantic gestures. Emily looked happier than I'd seen her in years. She was animated, laughing, touching his hand across the table. This wasn't just physical cheating, she was emotionally invested in this relationship. Over the next month, I documented everything. Photos of Emily and her lover at various locations. Screenshots of the GPS data showing her real whereabouts during business trips. Copies of credit card statements showing charges for hotels, dinners, and gifts. I wasn't planning to use this evidence for revenge, at least not initially. I just needed to understand the full scope of her deception. September brought an unexpected revelation. While researching divorce attorneys online, I decided to look up Emily's lover. From the license plate of his Mercedes, I was able to identify him as Robert Ashford, a successful real estate developer. But when I searched his name online, I discovered something that changed everything. Robert Ashford was married. His wife was Dr. Patricia Ashford, a prominent pediatrician. They had 2 teenage children and lived in a mansion in the exclusive Hilltop neighborhood. Robert wasn't just cheating on me with Emily, he was cheating on his own family with her. This discovery sparked an idea that grew into an elaborate plan. If Emily wanted to destroy our marriage for this man, I would make sure she understood exactly who she was destroying it for. October was preparation month. I researched Robert and Patricia Ashford extensively, learning their routines, their social connections, their children's school schedules. I discovered that Patricia volunteered at the Children's Hospital every Saturday morning and had lunch with her book club every second Tuesday. Robert played golf at the country club every Sunday morning and had business dinners throughout the week. I also began preparing for my own future. I found a small apartment I could afford on my mechanic's salary, opened a separate bank account, and started moving money there gradually. I consulted with a divorce attorney and learned about asset division, alimony, and the legal process ahead. But most importantly, I started documenting Emily's lies more systematically. I kept a detailed journal of every business trip she claimed to take, every late night at work, every gym session that didn't happen. I printed out credit card statements, GPS tracking data, and photographs of her with Robert. I was building a case not just for divorce but for something much more comprehensive. In November, I put the first phase of my plan into action. Using a prepaid phone, I sent an anonymous message to Dr. Patricia Ashford. Your husband Robert is having an affair with Emily Carter, a bank manager. They meet regularly at hotels and his apartment in Cherry Creek. I thought you deserved to know. I didn't expect an immediate response, but Patricia Ashford was apparently not someone who ignored such serious accusations. Within 2 days, I saw her silver BMW parked outside the Cherry Creek apartment complex, and I watched through binoculars as she confronted Robert and Emily as they left the building together. The confrontation was brief but intense. Patricia was clearly furious, pointing and shouting at both of them. Robert tried to calm her down while Emily stood there looking shocked and confused. Finally, Patricia got back in her car and drove away, leaving Robert and Emily standing on the sidewalk in what appeared to be a heated argument. That night, Emily came home looking shaken and upset. She said she'd had a difficult day at work and wanted to go to bed early. I pretended to be concerned and sympathetic, offering to make her some tea and asking if she wanted to talk about what was bothering her. She just shook her head and said everything would be fine. Over the next few days, Emily seemed nervous and distracted. Her phone rang constantly and she would step outside to take calls, often returning looking more agitated than before. Her business trips suddenly stopped, and she started coming home directly after work instead of going to the gym. I knew that Robert's wife had discovered the affair, but I wasn't sure how it would affect Emily's relationship with him. Would they try to be more careful? Would they end things? Would Robert leave his wife? I decided to wait and see before implementing the next phase of my plan. December brought unexpected developments. Emily's behavior became increasingly erratic. She would start conversations with me about our future together, asking about my retirement plans and whether I ever thought about moving to a different city. She seemed to be testing my commitment to our marriage, though I couldn't understand why. She also started being more affectionate, initiating physical intimacy more often and suggesting activities we used to enjoy but had abandoned over the years. It was as if she was trying to reconnect with our relationship, though I suspected it was more about assuaging her guilt than genuine romantic interest. Meanwhile, my surveillance showed that Emily was still meeting with Robert, though less frequently and at different locations. They seemed to be trying to keep their relationship secret from his wife, meeting at out-of-the-way restaurants and hotels outside the city. I decided it was time for the second phase of my plan. Using the same prepaid phone, I sent a message to Robert Ashford directly. "Your wife knows about Emily Carter. How much is it worth to you to keep this information from spreading to your business associates, your country club friends, and your children's schools?" I wasn't actually planning to blackmail him. That would be illegal and could backfire on me. But I wanted him to feel the same fear and uncertainty that Emily's lies had made me feel for months. Robert's response came within hours. "Who is this? What do you want?" I replied, "I want you to end your relationship with Emily Carter permanently. If you don't, everyone in your social and professional circle will learn about your affair with a married bank employee. Your choice." The effect was immediate. Within 2 days, Emily came home in tears. She said she was having problems at work and felt like her career was falling apart. When I asked for details, she was vague, mentioning conflicts with superiors and questions about her professional judgment. I realized that Robert had probably ended their relationship abruptly, likely telling Emily that his wife had found out and it was too dangerous to continue. Emily was experiencing the collapse of her secret life, but she couldn't share her real pain with me because I supposedly didn't know about the affair. This was when I implemented the most crucial part of my plan. January arrived with Emily in a state of emotional crisis. She was crying frequently, barely eating, and having trouble sleeping. She called in sick to work several times, spending entire days in bed. When I suggested she see a doctor or counselor, she insisted she just needed time to work through some personal issues. One evening, as she sat on the couch looking miserable, I sat down next to her and took her hand. "Emily," I said gently, "I know about Robert Ashford." She went completely white. Her hand started shaking in mine, and she looked like she was about to vomit. "I know about the hotels, the fake business trips, the apartment in Cherry Creek. I've known for months." Emily started crying, not the gentle tears she'd been shedding recently, but deep, wrenching sobs that seemed to come from her soul. "Ethan, I'm so sorry," she whispered. "I never meant for this to happen. I love you. I've always loved you." "But you loved him too," I said. She nodded, unable to speak. "Here's what's going to happen," I continued, my voice steady despite the emotional turmoil inside me. "I've already filed for divorce. I've moved most of my belongings to a new apartment. I've documented everything about your affair, not to hurt you, but to protect myself legally." Emily looked up at me with red, swollen eyes. "Ethan, please. Can't we work through this? Can't we try counseling? Emily, you've been living a double life for almost a year. You've lied to me every single day. You've shared intimate moments with another man while coming home and pretending to be my loving wife. I can't trust you anymore, and without trust, we don't have a marriage." "But Robert ended it," she said desperately. "His wife found out and he said we couldn't see each other anymore. It's over with him. I choose you. I choose our marriage." This was the moment I'd been preparing for, the moment when Emily would try to salvage our relationship after losing her lover. You don't get to choose me as a backup plan, I said. You don't get to come back to our marriage because your affair didn't work out. You made your choice every day for months when you chose to lie to me, to cheat on me, to build a relationship with someone else while using me as your safety net. I stood up and walked to the kitchen, returning with a folder full of documents. These are divorce papers. These are copies of credit card statements showing your affair-related expenses. These are GPS tracking records showing where you really were during your fake business trips. These are photographs of you and Robert together. Emily's face went from pale to green as she looked through the evidence of her deception. You tracked me, she whispered. You lied to me every day for months, I replied. I needed to know the truth. This feels like you were planning this all along. Like you wanted our marriage to fail. I wanted our marriage to succeed. But you decided to have 2 relationships instead of 1, and when I discovered that, I decided to protect myself instead of pretending everything was fine. Emily looked through the papers again, and I could see her processing the full scope of my knowledge and preparation. You contacted his wife, she said suddenly. You're the one who told Patricia about us. I nodded. Robert was cheating on his wife just like you were cheating on me. I thought she deserved to know the truth about her marriage, just like I deserved to know the truth about mine. Emily's tears stopped, and for the first time in weeks she looked genuinely angry. You destroyed my relationship with him. You destroyed our relationship when you started sleeping with him. I just made sure his wife knew what kind of man she was married to. You ruined his life too. He could lose his family, his reputation, his business relationships. Emily, listen to yourself. You're more concerned about protecting your lover and his reputation than you are about what you did to our marriage. You're proving to me that I'm making the right decision. We sat in silence for several minutes. Emily continued looking through the evidence I'd gathered, and I could see her understanding the futility of trying to deny or minimize what she'd done. Finally, she looked up at me with a strange expression I'd never seen before. You're not the man I thought you were, she said. What do you mean? I mean you're calculating. Cool. You spent months planning this, documenting everything, manipulating the situation to get the outcome you wanted. The Ethan I married would have confronted me immediately, demanded an explanation, maybe thrown things or yelled. But you played a long game. You destroyed my affair while pretending to be my supportive husband. I considered her words carefully before responding. The Ethan you married trusted you completely and never would have imagined you were capable of such deception. But that Ethan was naive. This Ethan learned to be strategic because you taught him that the person he loved most in the world could lie to his face every day for months. Emily nodded slowly as if she was finally understanding something important. So this is really over. This has been over since the day you decided to cheat. I just needed time to accept that and plan for my future. The divorce process took 3 months to complete. Emily didn't contest anything, though she did hire her own attorney to make sure she understood her rights. We divided our assets according to Colorado law, sold the house, and went our separate ways. During those 3 months, I learned more about Emily's affair than I had during my months of surveillance. Robert Ashford did lose his family. Dr. Patricia Ashford filed for divorce and was granted primary custody of their children. His reputation in Denver's business community was damaged, though he managed to keep his real estate business afloat. Emily, meanwhile, struggled professionally and personally. The stress of the affair's discovery, combined with the guilt and shame of her deception, affected her work performance at the bank. She wasn't fired, but she was passed over for the regional manager position she'd supposedly already been promoted to, another lie she'd told to justify her frequent absences. She also had to face the reality that Robert had ended their relationship not out of concern for his family, but out of fear for his reputation and business interests. She'd given up her marriage for a man who abandoned her the moment their affair became inconvenient for him. I moved into my small apartment and focused on rebuilding my life. I picked up extra shifts at the auto shop, started taking evening classes in business management, and began dating again after a few months. It wasn't easy starting over at 36, but it felt better than living in a marriage built on lies. 6 months after our divorce was finalized, I ran into Emily at a grocery store. She looked tired and thin, but she seemed calmer than she had during the final months of our marriage. "How are you doing?" she asked. "I'm doing well," I said honestly. "I have my own place, I'm thinking about opening my own auto shop eventually, and I'm dating someone new." She smiled, though it looked a little forced. "I'm glad you're happy. Are you?" Emily was quiet for a moment. "I'm learning to be. I made some terrible decisions and I'm still dealing with the consequences. But I'm in therapy now, trying to understand why I did what I did." And what have you learned? That I was running away from something in myself, not toward something with Robert. I was scared of getting older, scared that I'd never have any adventures or excitement beyond our routine life. Having an affair made me feel alive and desirable in a way I hadn't felt since college. I nodded. I understand that feeling. But there were other ways to find excitement and adventure that wouldn't have destroyed our marriage. I know that now. But at the time it felt like I deserved to have both. A stable marriage with you and an exciting romance with him. I thought I could manage both relationships without anyone getting hurt. That was never possible, Emily. Someone was always going to get hurt. I realize that now. I hurt you, I hurt Robert's family, I hurt myself. And for what? A relationship with a man who dropped me the moment it became inconvenient. We talked for a few more minutes and I found myself feeling something I hadn't expected, pity. Not for the woman who had cheated on me, but for the person who had been so disconnected from her own values and desires that she thought betrayal was her only option for happiness. As we said goodbye, Emily touched my arm gently. Ethan, I need you to know that I loved you. I still love you in a way. What I did wasn't about not loving you enough. It was about me being broken in ways I didn't understand. I know, I said. And I forgive you, Emily. Not because what you did was okay, but because carrying anger around won't help either of us move forward. She started to cry then, and for a moment I wanted to comfort her the way I had for 8 years of marriage. But that wasn't my role anymore. I wished her well and walked away. A year later, I opened Carter's Auto Repair with money I'd saved from working overtime and selling my half of our house. The business has been successful, partly because I learned that the attention to detail and strategic thinking I'd developed during my divorce served me well as an entrepreneur. I'm still dating the woman I met 6 months after the divorce, Sarah, a nurse at Denver General Hospital. She knows the whole story of my marriage and divorce, and she appreciates both my honesty and my commitment to our relationship. We've talked about marriage, and while I'm not ready yet, I think I will be someday. Sometimes I think about Emily and wonder if she ever found what she was looking for. I hope she did, and I hope she learned to find it without destroying other people's lives in the process. But mostly, I don't think about the past anymore. I learned that betrayal can either destroy you or teach you to value honesty and loyalty in ways you never did before. It can make you bitter and suspicious, or it can make you grateful for genuine connection when you find it. I chose gratitude over bitterness, and that choice has made all the difference. Thank you for watching the video to the end. Maybe YouTube will no longer offer you my channel, so subscribe to it by clicking subscribe on the right under the video to receive new interesting stories. Also on the right of the video there is a playlist with other interesting stories that you can listen to, and you can also write in the comments what stories you would like to see on the channel.